Harry here to talk about the latest political opponent of Donald Trump to be the subject potentially of a complete bogus federal criminal law prosecution, the very thing that DOJ should never, ever, ever do, the third rail of the third rail. It is now Eric Swalwell in the crosshairs, and the crosshairs originate in the precise same way. A total Trump lackey, think Ed Martin Jr. or Emile Beauvais. It's that level of person just in there to make political hay. A man named Bill Pulte, who's the director of because Trump has made him so, the Federal Housing Finance Agency. He's the one who's been the origin and the sort of, bogus official kind of veneer of these various charges of mortgage fraud, for example, that have been leveled against Tish James, the New York AG. A Wall Street Journal report suggested that he has been improperly accessing documents in the agency that are supposed to be under close hold, the same way, for example, medical documents would be. He doesn't care, so he grabs for any political opponent pieces of paper that you file for mortgage privately. People are not supposed to ferret through your bank records with no predication or reason, and looks to construct some kind of phony baloney mortgage fraud. And his latest is that Wednesday, he sent another of his Valentines to Pam Bondi as a so-called criminal referral that Eric Swalwell needs to be investigated. Now, what's the story here with Tish James, with Adam Schiff? You have a few different mortgages, a few different residences, and the argument is something about that second one was not quite on the up and up. We know, by the way, that you could say the same of many different members of the administration. This is a very kind of common, I don't want to say practice. These guys all deny mortgage fraud, and it has very much to do with how accountants construe tax regulations and the like. But even the stuff that Pulte points to seems very kind of benign and widespread. Swalwell, however, only has one residence. And Swalwell has said, moreover, that nobody has told him anything from the Department of Justice of why he is now the subject, at least, of a criminal investigation. But you have this bellicose statement by Pulte himself, who, as a member of the federal government, should be saying exactly nothing about a pending investigation, but it serves to dirty him up. And the suggestion is maybe that something about the mortgage document doesn't cleanly state exactly where his residence is. So is this something about he really lives in another part of California, or is this going to be the really sort of tawdry gambling in the casino claim that actually he lives more than half the year he lays his head on the pillow in Washington, D.C.? Talk about a, widespread sort of non-crime. But that may be exactly what Pulte is trying to say. Here's what he told Bloomberg News over the summer. Is it mortgage fraud to say that you live in one area and not another area? Yes, it is mortgage fraud. We're not going to be intimidated. What an ironic statement. And then he adds, it doesn't matter whether you're Fed Governor Cook or Joe Blow on the street. If you commit mortgage fraud, we are going to report it. That is a bad, bad joke, because they are not combing the documents that he probably shouldn't have access to anyway to find what Joe Blow did on these kinds of papers, which, as I say, seem to be widely subject to some kind of scrutiny. He clearly pulls the ones of Trump's enemies. And basically, Swalwell if he's not enemy number one for Trump, it's pretty close. And he said, he's shown real composure, said for a while, I expect them to be coming after me. Remember, he's a former prosecutor. And in 2016, he was among the first voices when some in the Democratic caucus were saying, let's take it easy. Let's not go in against Trump. He was among the first who said, let's investigate. And moreover, he has personally sued, and that suit is still alive with other people, Trump, for damages that he sustained. And he sustained damages in the January 6th melee. So there's a civil suit, and it's still out there were he to win it. Besides, probably Trump might make his arguments about official acts like the, calling of the insurrectionists to storm the Capitol was an official act. But in any event, if he were to win it, that would be a body blow against Trump's inexhaustible campaign to try to wipe from the pages of history everything that happened January 6th. So he has now come into the crosshairs. He's really treating it as, in a very cool-headed way, and saying, come and get me. I've been expecting it. I don't even know what this is about. And, the DOJ hasn't told him what it's about, but we know what it's about in a broader sense. There's just no doubt. It's a now tried and true pattern. The political henchman that has been installed in the housing agency looks at the papers of anybody that Trump doesn't like and would like to indict. Any kind of, and then when he sees something that you can try to squeeze an allegation out and all this stuff from what we've seen, we'll see if they ever go to trial and if they ever have something to present. But as a former prosecutor, I can tell you all this stuff is less than small potatoes, and you would never give it a second thought to open a criminal investigation. Anyway, though, he gives it the patina of authenticity or regularity by making the referral to the Department of Justice, also to the Office of the Inspector General at the housing agency. The Inspector General has some jurisdiction to try to protect the programmatic interests of the National Mortgage Agency. If indeed people were really taking advantage of federally backed mortgages and the like, you can see the Inspector General getting in on the act, whether or not the Department of Justice does. But it's all kind of a Potemkin village just constructed now to dirty up Swalwell. And on that actual goal, Swalwell seems, if anything, to be taking it, and this is just the smart political move, but to be not only, unafraid, but to actually be taking it as a kind of, predictable badge of honor. So the big quote from him, this is just Donald Trump doing everything he can to target his enemies, and he had expected it, like James Comey and John Bolton, Adam Schiff and Lisa Cook, Letitia James, and the dozens more to come. I refuse to live in fear in what was once the freest country in the world, Swalwell said. So in some sense, it even gives him a platform of some prominence to really criticize Trump. And he actually finishes off with a quote from Mark Twain saying, "Patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it. Mr. President, do better, be better." I think he's going to be a formidable rhetorical adversary. Of course, that doesn't mean he has, it's in any way fair, not to mention lawful, for the DOJ to be training their resources against him for a phony baloney crime. We'll see if that gets off the ground. And, if so, we're talking about money and lawyers and all kinds of stuff that Trump rains down on his enemies in what is a abject corruption in the Department of Justice. That's absolutely dirty pool and a travesty under the Constitution and everything the Department of Justice has been until this gang came to the table. So in that sense, it's repugnant. But in the political sphere, we'll see how it plays. It might be something that, backfires. Swallwell, well-spoken, former prosecutor, very popular, may well, make them pay politically for this absolute tawdry, bogus federal charge. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.